Hey y'all, Kendra Wack here on behalf of Hunt Factory. For this week's episode, I will be making my take on Sloppy Joes with elk meat from this past fall. First, I'm going to dice up a red onion and a red pepper. I'm going to use these two for flavor profile and just to add a little bit of texture. When it comes to the seasoning or the mix that you're going to use for the Sloppy Joe, the reason I make my own is to control the ingredients that I am putting into my recipe. So if you were to buy a can of Sloppy Joe mix, there's usually added sugar, there's thickening agents, added salt, and some other preservatives. So you may be wondering why that I have a sweet potato here. So with the traditional Sloppy Joe recipe, the Sloppy Joe is served on a bun. And I typically avoid any type of bread just because it has no nutritional value. So the good thing about sweet potatoes are that they are versatile with any type of recipe. So that is why I choose sweet potato. You could do a regular potato if you prefer. So with the sweet potato, I'm going to cut the ends off. And then I'm going to cut it into about 1/4 of an inch round. And then I'm going to drizzle with olive oil, season it with salt, cook it in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. And then flip them for an additional 5 minutes just to get a little bit crispy on the edges. Next, I'm going to toss the red onion and pepper into the skillet. Going to drizzle some olive oil over top. Now that the onions and the peppers are tender, I'm going to throw in the meat. And we're going to cook it until it's golden brown. Now that we have the meat in there, I'm going to toss in a teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of black pepper. Now that the meat is brown, I'm going to add in the sauce. So 8 ounces of tomato sauce, 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and then 1/2 teaspoon of honey. I'm going to stir this all up and then let it cook for about 20 minutes. If it starts to turn dry, you can add water to the mixture, but you want to make sure it is thick. This is a very simple recipe and another way to use ground elk meat. I hope you enjoyed this week's recipe, and if you haven't already, please subscribe and follow Hunt Factory as well as myself. The sweet potato definitely sets off the tiny bit of sweetness in the Sloppy Joes.